Hello, hello, and welcome to the Partly Cloudy podcast, where it's overcast with a chance of conversation. I'm Davis.
I'm Sam.
And today we are joined by Paul Wearsch. Paul, how are you today?
I'm doing great, guys. I'm very honored to be here on PCP, and I'm just ready to have a great time with these guys.
You know what? We are too. We're excited to have you. Paul is he's a friend. He's a fellow teammate. He's a good guy. We work together as an umpire for the rec league, and we're just gonna strap on in. This is the we're gonna strap right up here. Lesbians. Yeah, so you know what? We're here for a good time. It's the inaugural podcast, first ever. So if you're listening for the first time, it's a little late already, but this is not safe for work. Just a couple guys hanging out, talking about stuff that's going on in our lives. A little background. We're from Cleveland. You got anything to say about that, Sam?
No, I mean, we kind of live in a weird limbo between out in the middle of the boonies and then closer to the city, so that offers a unique perspective on life, I feel.
Yeah, definitely. We're all from the same place here, but I think we all have something to offer here, so I hope you enjoy, and let's get right into it. I think we should start with what we just kind of segued into, is living in a small city near Cleveland, and what it's like, because as of the last 10 years or so, the population has been dwindling, and it's kind of interesting to see how grades that are in elementary schools, middle schools, the classes are getting smaller and smaller, and it's tough to see.
Yeah, it's definitely indicative, because in our high school we have a wall of senior class photos, and as it gets farther and farther down the wall as the years progress, the kids start taking up less and less bleachers, and you start to think about what your high school used to be like when you had so many more kids going there.
Right, and this is especially because of the recent Ford plant closing within the last, 10 years?
Something wrong there, yeah.
Take a lot of business out of Vermillion.
I mean, with the Tostitos plant. I mean, that was just, that's
devastating.
Really. I mean, Tostitos. Not just because of, the loss of jobs, but the loss of the Tostitos. I mean, I haven't dipped my salsa.
Yeah. We took a bite out of our population.
What's that commercial? It's like guacamole. Oh yeah. So I remember now. For some context, there's a episode of Judge Judy where she's talking to a. I'm glad you're excited, Paul. I'm glad. We're excited to have you. She's talking to one of these guys, and he said that he was stealing. I believe he was stealing avocados from his father-in-law's tree that he was growing. He was growing avocados, and she asked, you can see where it's going, but she asked, why'd you take him? He said, one word, guacamole. Guacamole. So,
and with that, we are sponsored by Tostitos.
Yeah. Tostitos not a sponsor, but maybe one day.
Yeah.
Maybe one day.
Tostitos. Melts in your mouth, not your hand.
Is that the official slogan?
Oh, yes, I believe. I mean, listen, if you got tortilla chips melting in your hand, you got other things coming, mister.
Well, that's a big problem that we experience these days.
Especially with the dwindling population.
Exactly. It all comes back. I mean, although maybe that's a pro. Less tortilla chips will melt in people's hands if there's less people.
No, there's an idea.
Yeah, so it's kind of what I've been saying about how we should make the purge come to life.
Do you think more Tostitos chips will be melting in people's mouth with the dwindling population?
Wow, that is a loaded
because there will be
question.
Less carbon dioxide in the air because there will be less people breathing it out, which means that they'll stay cooler.
That is true. That is true. And you know what? I do think that, although to bring it back a little bit, I think the dwindling population is scary, but I also think that it kind of makes every relationship we have a little bit more personal. I think it allows us to connect better with people because, obviously you live in a big city like New York, you're not going to ever know but everybody in that landscape. But here in town, there's always sorts of names that you know and people and as you grow up here, you'll experience, oh wow, they have kids now and they live in Vermillion, but I think that's kind of the beauty of living in a small town.
For sure.
So let's go ahead and let's start talking about some sports here. Obviously, being from around Cleveland, we're large Cavs fans, and LeBron, obviously, they call it the summer of LeBron. It's LeBron week. Um, so
Madness is what it is.
as of today, this is being recorded on Friday, June 29th. LeBron has opted out of his contract, which could mean a number of things. Sam, you want to give a perspective on that one?
Well, people around here are somewhat freaking out because they think that this is a sign that LeBron's leaving. He's going to some big market team. But LeBron's done this in the past. It's not the first time that he's opted out of a contract to reconstruct his deal to get more money out of it.
That's very true.
So I don't think it's as much of a apocalyptic sign as people are making it out to be.
Definitely.
Now, as somebody who's not a really huge fan of basketball,
Sure.
seeing LeBron, him trying to leave really discourages me to watch NBA basketball just because he's really the only reason I even watch it, especially once finals time comes.
Definitely. I mean, you got to understand, being from Cleveland, I mean, LeBron literally returned the flats to Cleveland.
Literally.
He single-handedly turned around a city.
Yeah, for those of you who are listening that don't realize what the flats were, it was literally a Scooby-Doo ghost town.
Yeah.
And now there's businesses returning, all because LeBron James said, you know
When
what,
he returned
I'll come back and play basketball.
From Miami.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unbelievable, really.
Ridiculous.
And, it would be a blow to lose him. And obviously, I am a huge Cavs fan. I always have been. I was devastated when he left, and now that he's been back and he won the championship in 2016, it's been great. And I understand why he'd want to leave. I mean, it's for basketball. It makes sense. We have a bunch of scrub nuggets on our team.
Yeah. But I think LeBron's accomplished everything he wants to as a basketball player. So I don't think his decision's more so about basketball. I think it's definitely going to depend on what his kids want and how much money he can get.
That's an interesting perspective there, really.
Because his whole goal was to win a championship for Cleveland. And he accomplished that, 2 years ago?
Yeah.
He has no more obligation left. And some people see that as, oh, that's why he's going to leave Cleveland, because he has no more obligation left. But I see it that, hey, if his kids want to grow up here, maybe Bronny wants to go to St. Vincent St. Mary, it's all dependent on his family and his financial situation now. It's not dependent on some legacy that he has to live up to.
That's interesting, because I feel like people often forget that these guys are superstars, they're celebrities, B-list, but they're celebrities. People forget that they're human beings.
I would say LeBron's an A-list celebrity. I mean,
well, sure.
He's possibly the most known basketball player.
Other than Jordan, probably.
Yeah.
Because, he's got a worldwide brand. I guess so does LeBron, though.
Yeah.
Right.
But I still not to the extent of
Yeah.
Jordan, just because of his longevity.
Right. Exactly. But I think people forget often that these basketball players are human beings. Right. And it's not just as simple as saying, oh, I'm going to go play for the Lakers. You have to pack up your whole life and go somewhere. And obviously LeBron has a house in LA, and he's lives out there sometimes in the summers. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it seems like he is trying to acquaint himself with LA living, but at the same time, it's he's from Akron. He's from Cleveland.
Yeah.
So people are really quick to forget that it's not just a basketball decision, as Sam was saying.
Yeah.
It's more than that. It's about his family. It's about everything else.
Yeah. LeBron himself has said that his connection to Northeast Ohio is bigger than basketball.
Exactly.
It's his heritage. Yeah. It's his life.
Right. Now, even if LeBron does go to the Lakers, how many years period do you guys think he still has in the league?
I think it depends on if he leaves.
Right.
Really?
Yeah.
But because who knows with this team, might push him to retire.
Exactly. To start focusing on the Hollywood aspect.
Yeah.
Right.
It's almost like a Ronda Rousey type situation.
It kind of is, because he's gotten that taste of what the other side can be like once he's done with basketball. So he might start to consider that as more of a legitimate career option.
Well, we saw him in Trainwreck, and
he got a good response in Trainwreck.
He was the star of the show, in my opinion.
I don't know, Bill Hader.
Bill Hader is fantastic, and I cannot disagree with you.
Amy Schumer
I'm not a huge Amy Schumer fan myself, but I did think the movie was very good. LeBron's moments were fantastic, but it's similar to the case in Ronda Rousey, because she experienced so much winning. She was a champion, and then all of a sudden, these new superstars started coming around, i.e. Golden State Warriors with Kevin Durant, and they started knocking her out. And it's almost like, okay, well, I've accomplished, I'm a champion, maybe I'll move on to more of the acting side, whereas Ronda Rousey's doing movies, She's doing TV shows. She's doing WWE.
Yeah, she's broken into another medium.
Exactly. And I think that's definitely something that LeBron could explore. But then again, LeBron is the biggest superstar on the planet. As Ronda Rousey, UFC is obviously nowhere near as the magnitude of the NBA.
Right. Yeah, for sure.
And I don't know, how many UFC fans there are out there, but I'd say that LeBron definitely serves more of a figure than Ronda Rousey does.
Yeah, he definitely reaches a broader audience than Rousey ever did.
Now that's pretty interesting though, because UFC is seen more of an international sport though. Whereas basketball is more of a
basketball is spread to be a worldwide sport.
It is spreading.
But the NBA specifically, it is just it's an American association.
Right.
But
well, that's an interesting topic. Let's segue a little bit here. As you guys know, you guys are big NFL fans. They've been playing games in Mexico City, in London, and there's even been talks about how
the Jags want to move.
Yeah,
the owner wants to move to London.
And they're talking about expanding and out of countries. How do you feel about moving something that's called the National Football League? It's been American roots. It's the foundation of American sports, other than baseball. But it's a classic. How would you feel about moving it outside of the nation and expanding its horizons a little bit?
I wouldn't be opposed to it. I just don't think that London is the smart move, because you have to have. It's one thing to have a couple games there during the season,
right?
But having a team fly there every week or every other week to play a game, it's going to take such a toll on the players that the games there are going to be at such a lower level.
So what would you say is more of a Canadian team?
Yeah, I would, or just
Mexican?
North American. Because they already make those same trips from across the nation,
right?
So they're accustomed to those types of flights.
Well, you put a team up in Toronto. That's a shorter flight for New England than it would be to go to San Francisco.
Exactly.
So that would be a much more practical option.
Exactly. Or like one in Vancouver. That's right, literally across the border from Seattle.
Yeah.
Right. I don't know about the demographics, but whether or not if there's more Canadian football fans, or there's more people in Great Britain who are fans of NFL football. But I know there's already Canada League football, so whether or not that would interfere, I'm not sure.
That would be the one issue. I think NFL, if it were to expand, it would be more successful in Mexico than anywhere else.
I think it definitely could be.
Because if you've seen any of the games that have gone on in Mexico City, the reception is insane. People love it down there, which I think was surprising to a lot of people.
Right.
But since Canada does already have the CFL, I think that does pose a problem for an NFL team trying to move there.
Right.
It definitely could.
Yeah.
And I know the CFL does have a decent following. Even when Johnny Manziel went to the CFL, it even spread into American culture.
People started taking more notice.
Exactly. And you see mainstream media like SportsCenter and just ESPN in general posting highlights from the CFL.
Oh, yeah.
It's definitely recognized as a major league.
Yeah.
So it would be interesting to see, let's say we put a team up in Vancouver, Toronto, see how the people up there would react.
I think it would be it would be very similar to the situation that happened with the USFL back in the day. I think there would be too much inner competition, and it just would result in inner fighting between the leagues and just one of them crashing. So, I don't know.
Could be.
Now that's interesting, because there used to be European League football when the NFL spread to Europe, and that was sort of a thing, kind of like the CFL, where players who were trying to get into the NFL that didn't make it first try, or old players who still wanted to play football but were cut from NFL, they'd go over to Europe. I know Kurt Warner did that before he started playing.
Really?
Yeah, I know. I think it's still got a pretty big following in Germany. I know I've watched a YouTuber who was the placeholder at USC, and he's going over and he's playing quarterback for the Stuttgart Scorpions in the German league.
Stuttgart.
Yeah, and it's the reception that it gets. Germans love it, but I think that football's slowly becoming more of an international sport. It's starting to take a little bit of a foothold.
Well, you know what? I really think there's definitely a similarity between football and pierogies, and the Germans, they love those pierogies, man.
Pierogies are Polish.
Well,
there we go.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure. I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess maybe they are. I'm not huge on European geography. I know Poland is east of Germany.
No, good
Yes.
job.
Warsaw is the capital.
Sawhorse.
Wait. Yeah. Maybe. I mean, potentially.
Maybe. I don't know.
How do you guys feel about horse factories with glue?
Oh, glue factories with horses?
Yeah. No. They take the glue
And they make them into horses?
Yeah, they reverse engineer horses out of the glue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Elon Musk is a really visionary guy.
but serious topic here. How do we feel about PETA?
The bread
From
or the
the
organization?
Well, you know what?
He got 3 wins.
Let's start with the bread. Let's
Okay.
move to the organization.
All right.
And then can we finish with PETA from the Hunger Games?
Sure.
All right.
Of course.
All right.
Let's actually start with PETA. From
Let's
the Hunger
start
Games.
with Peter from the Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Underdeveloped as a character in the movies.
I could not agree less. I think that PETA was developed perfectly. I was glad that he didn't get that much screen time.
Right.
Okay, because I don't think he needed it. I think the movies need to focus even more on Katniss.
All right.
Frankly,
All right. Well, I do love Josh Hutcherson. All right. Bridge of Terabithia, classic. All right.
Love it.
First movie I
Classic.
cried to.
heart wrencher.
All right. However, I think Josh Hutcherson wasn't the right role. Wasn't the right move for that role.
Okay.
See, I really enjoyed Josh Hutcherson.
I think I did as well, but I do think it's an interesting point of who would you cast?
Maybe one of the other Hemsworths.
Oh, that would
Battle of the Hemsworths.
yeah. I mean,
That'd be-
Can
sheesh.
you imagine?
Yeah, spit roast to Jennifer Lawrence. I mean,
Okay.
yeah, I mean, no, I mean that's not a bad call. I think maybe Grain Wilson. Yeah,
Right.
no, that'd be it.
All right.
Be a cast.
Next, PETA, the bread.
The bread.
How do we feel about it?
You know, well, here's how I feel. When I was younger, say 2 or 3 ago,
2 or 3 ago.
Yeah.
So
probably about a year ago, actually.
okay.
I used to during the summer. I would take the pita and I would open it up
Mhm.
and I would stuff chicken salad in there. And because I'm a huge chicken salad guy, let me tell you, I really am. I lived off it for a long while, and I both ate it and drank it.
Gross.
But you know what?
Blend it up.
The pita, it really it does. It's a nice compliment to the chicken salad because I was used to obviously. I mean, what else do you put chicken salad on? Wheat bread.
Yeah.
Okay.
Obviously,
Which
if you
is-
put chicken salad on white bread, you're an animal.
Yeah, exactly. So
Only other acceptable King swine rolls.
What
whatever.
about this?
An-
Burrito wrap.
burrito wrap.
Otherwise known as a tortilla.
Now, did you know that burrito is little donkey
I did know
in
that.
Spanish?
Yes.
Burr, donkey, ito, little.
Well, burro is donkey, Dave.
Okay, well,
As you can tell, Dave isn't the strongest Spanish speaker in the
Yeah.
group.
not the worst.
Yeah, not the worst. That would go to our wonderful guest, Paul Wearsch.
Yeah, yeah, he is terrible at it. Speaking of terrible, I'm just kidding. I can't segue that way. It was amazing. I went to the theater. I watched Incredibles 2. I have to say,
Oh
it was
my God.
fantastic. Paul,
Incredible.
did you see Incredibles?
I have not yet.
You have not? Well, I will try to leave the spoilers out of it
Yeah.
for both our listeners and for our guest Paul. Let me tell you, Mrs. Incredible dies. I'm just kidding.
No,
Or
just
maybe I'm not kidding.
Yeah.
Spoiler free. Yeah. Well, same shit.
Yeah, but I thought it was amazing.
I thought it was a great movie. I don't want to talk about it too much because
Yeah.
Paul hasn't seen it, but it was fantastic. I will say it's one of my favorite sequels. Maybe I think the only one that I could compete with is Toy Story 3.
Toy Story 3 was
Toy Story
amazing.
3 was fantastic.
It was.
Oh.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think because we waited so long for The Incredibles,
Mhm.
I think that added to
Do you think it was
how
worth
good
sweeter?
Yeah, I think it was worth it as well.
I think, it wasn't like, I didn't walk out of the theater feeling, oh, it's nice that they made that. I walked out of the theater feeling, I'm glad that they made that.
That's a great sentiment.
Yeah, because if I had walked out of there like, oh, like, it's nice that they made that, they made an attempt, it would have left something to be desired, because it's not what we waited for.
You know what? I can't go in. I was going to go into it. I can't go into it. Don't want to spoil anything. But we can segue a little bit. So what was your favorite animated movie as a child?
As a child?
Yeah.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Ooh. I mean, The Incredibles was up there.
I think Incredibles might have to be my favorite.
It could be.
I think it has to be The Incredibles for me. I dressed up as Mr. I was told that I was Mr. Incredible. I refused. I wanted to be Dash because I wanted to be fast. But I was Mr. Incredible for Halloween as a kid.
It's interesting. I loved The Incredibles. It's Disney Pixar, right?
It is.
I thought so. It's not Disney Pixar, obviously, but I was a huge Scooby-Doo guy when I
I
was
did like
younger.
Scooby-Doo.
Now, are we talking cartoon movies or cartoon TV shows?
Movies.
Movies.
Okay.
Well, they're Scooby-Doo movies.
Yeah.
Right.
Like the one where they go to Louisiana and they're the zombie cats.
Zombie Island.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best one.
Dude, it's so good.
It really is. And
I'll tell you what. Nothing I love more than watching that Mystery Machine get into some kooky ideas.
Listen to me, viewer. If you were mad about spoilers from Scooby-Doo Zombie Island, it came out 20 years ago. Okay, we're going to talk about it. All right? Let me tell you. When they turned that damn sundial, I was like, damn! There's some voodoo-ass shit going
And
on!
when they turned into freaking cats,
Yeah, I mean, that was nuts.
I was sitting there as a kid, cross-legged, family room floor, because
squishing the twigs and berries.
chairs weren't an option.
No.
I screamed. I went, they're cats!
Yeah. Well, that was, I mean, wow, that is volume.
Yeah.
Rip headphone users, as the kids say.
But yeah, that was a great movie.
You know what? I loved that one. The live action ones were good, but I don't think they were as good as the cartoons.
They weren't as good. I mean,
they were pretty
how did they sneak Scooby onto the plane?
I don't know. As a grandma, yeah. I don't know the If you're mad about spoilers, you can tune out. I don't know about you guys. I don't know their actors' names either. But did you know that the actor played Fred and the actress that played Daphne are married in real life?
That's
Yeah.
nice.
Yeah, and they have kids. I mean, what a beautiful. It just brings a tear to my eye.
Beautiful family.
Yeah, really. Is it Freddie Prinze Jr.?
It might be.
I think it is.
I think it is.
I believe it is.
I thought it was Prince Fielder.
Oh, now that would have been a casting error.
Yeah.
Baseball.
Baseball. I'm not a huge baseball guy.
Neither am I.
Yeah.
Just wanted to bring
I
up Prince
did.
Fielder.
I watched the Indians when they were in the World Series.
If there's a game on, I'll watch it,
Yeah.
but I'm not seeking it out.
No,
I'm not going,
me either.
are the Indians on? But if I scroll past and I see the Indians, I'll watch for a couple of innings.
Yeah, I mean, but that's definitely not. Paul, you never gave your favorite animated movie.
I was a
Childhood.
huge Monsters Inc. fan.
Really? I never was into
also-
the Monsters Inc. Really?
I also will have to go with my favorite Disney movie, Finding Nemo.
Mhm.
Okay, well that's an interesting. Have you seen Finding Dory?
I've not.
Oh, okay, then never mind.
I've not seen Finding
You haven't
Dory
seen Finding Dory either?
No.
That one's fairly recent. I will not spoil that one either, but I will say it's not as good as a sequel as Incredibles 2, but it
Right.
was a pretty
Yeah.
good sequel. It obviously featured Dory a lot more.
Yeah. Well, she's in the title.
Yeah, well, I don't want to. Again, I don't want to get too much
No.
into that.
Yeah. Whoa.
Yeah, so don't you know. I mean, let's talk football again. Why not?
You know what? Let's
bring it
circle it back
Yeah,
around.
Let's bring it back. Let's
All
bring it
right.
back to the football.
Did we end up getting into football?
Yeah, a little bit. We were talking about the expansion.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting. I myself am a Cleveland Browns fan because I am normal and from Cleveland, so I cheer for the team that is from the city I am from. My co-host over here is a Steelers fan, unfortunately.
All right. You say that like it's such a terrible thing.
It is worst. It's the second worst. Our guest is the worst.
I would argue that it's the third worst. If I was a Bengals fan,
Yeah,
that'd be
well,
a little.
Well, if you're a Bengals fan, you're kind of like the worst human being possible.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, fair.
There might be 3 Bengals fans in the entire world.
Paul
Yeah.
Brown Stadium isn't looking too
Well,
full
why,
these days.
why- I remember I went to a game with my dad down in Cincinnati, and there was more Browns fans than there was Bengals fans.
That's ridiculous.
And here's the problem with it. How recent is the Bengals franchise? It wasn't an original. I know that.
It wasn't.
It was
It wasn't one of
it's
the.
been
But it's been there.
It's
for
been there for a
while.
while. Yeah. But in my opinion, if you're from Ohio, most everybody's a Browns fan or a Steelers fan, really, because there's a lot of Steelers fans
Yeah.
in the South. But up here in the North, it's mostly Browns fans.
Mhm.
And then, but once you get towards Southern Ohio, it's either Titans or Steelers.
Yeah.
There's not really a huge,
Yeah. There's a very small
demographic for
pocket
Bengals. which is weird.
of Ohio is actually Bengals fans. I would
Yeah.
argue that a lot of their fans come from Kentucky.
Yeah,
Right.
maybe so.
Because people in Ohio, we have other sports teams that we can cheer for. But Kentucky, they don't have any professional sports
Yeah,
teams.
yeah.
So they're kind of just landlocked into wherever they're closest
Uh-huh.
to.
Right.
Well, it's interesting because I think we're very lucky in Ohio to have all the core sports.
Yeah, we have all 4 of the major sports for the.
We also have a soccer team and the crew.
Mhm.
Although I don't know how long that's going to
Yeah,
last.
that might be moving to
But we
Austin.
also have a powerhouse in Ohio State for all the college sports.
Yeah.
So it's a nice balance. Obviously, the Cavs their history hasn't been great. They were pretty good in the '90s.
Yeah.
And then obviously we won the championship in the finals with LeBron, and the Browns were a really storied franchise up until they moved into
up until
Baltimore.
the AFL and the NFL combined.
Well, even in the '90s, they were
in the
a
80s
really,
and the 90s,
really solid
they
team.
had a
and
run, but
when they moved to Baltimore,
and they took all the talent that they had built, they had accrued over the several years leading up to that. It devastated the franchise. When they came back, it wasn't the same.
Never has been.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think in this year's draft, drafting Baker Mayfield, I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. I love the kid. I know he can come off as a little arrogant, but sure, you can say what you want, but he can play. You know,
he can.
He sure can damn play.
I don't know. I think if I was a general manager for a National Football League team, I wouldn't go near the kid. I think that while he can play, I'll admit it, the kid can flat out play. I think he presents too many off the field issues that I would be too concerned about.
Right. And I know people hate the Johnny Manziel comparison, but coming off of the Johnny Manziel draft, it's pretty daunting.
I do not think that comparison is fair, because I first of all, I believe that Baker Mayfield's a way better quarterback than Johnny Manziel was.
Right.
Because I think Johnny Manziel was way overhyped. His game was well designed for college. I think Baker Mayfield's would be a way better quarterback because he plays a little bit more with a pro style.
Right.
Johnny was a little erratic at times, but Baker Mayfield really he has the footwork to get out of the pocket and make throws, but he also is a really good pocket passer.
Right.
And even though he's undersized, he can still make the throws in the pocket.
For sure.
I do not think the off the field problems. I mean, Johnny Manziel was on crack.
Right.
Let's not ignore that.
Right.
Baker Mayfield's not on drugs. Okay, he just makes some bad decisions sometimes.
Right.
Which, needless to say, it's not a good thing.
Right.
But I don't think the Johnny Manziel comparison is fair, in my opinion.
I think it's partially fair. I don't think that he can completely escape it. Should he be burdened with it? No, but
he also hasn't played a game in the league yet.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just the biggest thing is they both have off the field issues, and really, that could be generalized to facilitate that.
Yeah, it might be overly pushed that there's the Johnny Manziel comparison, just because they played in geographically close locations. They both had a pretty, while Baker is more refined, they both have a pretty off-the-cuff style when it comes to their games, and they both have off-the-field problems.
Sure.
So I think it is a little bit forced, but I don't know. I think there's some comparison there that can be made. I don't think it's completely unfounded.
The Browns obviously also drafted Denzel Ward, the hometown kid, Ohio State. Loved that pick. I loved watching him at Ohio State. He was phenomenal.
Yep.
The Steelers ended up taking Edmonds.
Yeah, Terrell Edmonds from Virginia Tech.
The linebacker. I thought that was a bit of a weird pick. I didn't.
Yeah.
To me, it seemed like they almost forced the fact that for a Shazier replacement.
Before
they could have traded down for him. Yeah. They also, I'm not sure he would have been my pick there.
I don't know. I wanted him to get Evans out of Alabama, but he was snatched up by the Titans, right?
Yeah, I believe
so. I don't know about the Steelers draft. The Steelers don't really have a penchant for making super flashy drafts.
Right.
They go to their needs. They find they go in depth with their interviews, and they find who they really think they are. They're not going to usually go for big ticket names.
And you know what? It's not like they have too many holes to fill, anyways.
Yeah,
so
they have
picking a guy in Edmonds that's has a high upside may not be the worst thing.
Yeah.
But at the same time, people like Ben Roethlisberger and Le'Veon Bell are known to be kind of hot-headed.
Yeah.
So it maybe they become frustrated with the defense if they stop performing as well, because Shazier, he's one of the top middle linebackers in the game.
I would argue that going into his injury, he was playing the best middle linebacker playing the league.
That's hard with Luke Kuechly, though,
yeah,
and Bobby Wagner.
You got to say Wagner and Kuechly.
Mm-hmm. I think
Shazier's damn good.
Yeah,
there's no denying
I think Kuechly and Wagner are somewhat more the prototypical middle linebackers. They're a bit bigger. They're they're more direct run stoppers. But I think
Shazier's very skilled.
Yeah,
Shazier had some of the best coverage.
Shazier, yeah. I think Shazier's an amazing player, and all I can hope is that he's able to come back from that injury, which is awful.
Yeah, it was a horrible injury.
It happened when we were at a choir concert, and our choir director is a Steelers fan, and we told him before we went on stage, we said, "Hey, Shazier just got hurt in the game. He had to be carted off." And
we were watching it.
Yeah,
and stuff.
It was a scary time.
It was a scary injury. I was frightened for him. Obviously, coming from Ohio State, I grew up watching him for a couple. How many years was he there? 2, 3?
I think he was there for 3.
I mean, it was a hard thing to see.
Yeah. Because anybody would hate to see. I think football fans across the league hated to see it because you don't want to see anybody hurt that way. You can talk like inner team, like, "Oh, we're gonna kill you" or whatever, but you see an injury like that, it shakes you for a second.
Yeah, especially since all 3 of our teams, I'm a Ravens fan, by the way, all 3 of our teams have pretty solid linebacker cores, and you sort of develop a love for the linebackers on your team.
Of course you do.
And you start to feel
They're the handsome ones.
Well, but you start to feel you start to feel for the other team, even though you're kind of rivals, especially
definitely, 100%.
Exactly.
100%. Speaking of injury, let's segue back to the NBA here. Because we got to talk about Kawhi Leonard. Big scandal in the NBA. Oh, well, I guess I wouldn't say scandal, but a big news story.
It's a big story.
Yeah. Kawhi Leonard, obviously, he's a Finals MVP. I think a 2-time Defensive Player of the Year, maybe just once. I'm not positive. Kid's talented, obviously. He's still young. He's a superstar. There's nothing you can say about it. The silent assassin, as you may. He's the prototype for the San Antonio Spurs. As an organization. They're not flashy. They play textbook basketball. But all of a sudden, this relationship gets fractured. And now he says, "I want to go to LA. You got to trade me there." And a report came out today that the relationship is completely done and they're ready to move on. How do you guys feel?
I think it's unfortunate to see, obviously, but I think Kawhi definitely obviously got frustrated. I mean, weren't there reports that he could have played halfway through the season and he chose to still stay
He was cleared by Spurs doctors about halfway through the
year. I think that more than anything is indicative of some fracture that went on within the organization.
Right.
I don't know if his relationship with Greg Popovich became compromised or whatever, but it's crazy to see Kawhi seemed to be completely bought in to the Spurs franchise. He seemed to completely be bought into their way of doing things, their way of playing basketball, their off-the-court ideals. And then all of a sudden to just poof, him be gone from those ideals, it was a little bit shocking to see.
This is especially shocking for me because, this is something that LeBron looks at, and from a, Cavs fan, I look at it like that's just the next segue for LeBron to be going to LA, since that's one of the teams.
It's definitely possible.
He's been interested with.
Yeah, I think because from my understanding, LeBron and Kawhi, I mean, they're not best of friends, but they have a pretty good relationship.
They do. Yeah.
So, and like all the reports have been saying, if the Lakers can land Kawhi, then that's pretty much a free ticket for them to get LeBron.
Right.
And I don't know how much credence I give into that, but I think it would definitely tip the scales a little bit for LeBron.
And it's an interesting dynamic lately in the NBA where, and even in the NFL, it seems like the players have way more power than they used to.
Yeah, for sure.
And you see it, especially the NBA is a perfect example right now because it's being demonstrated. But Paul George has an option to opt out of his contract, can sign wherever he wants. Kawhi he's really the figurehead of it, in my opinion, right now. Is that he came out and said, he's the first person to ever do this, went to the media, said, "I want to go to the Lakers, trade me there." And he has created the situation where he has 1 year left on his deal. And he has told teams that he's going to sign with the Lakers after his contract is up. So now, why would any team want to trade for Kawhi Leonard for a 1 year rental other than the Los Angeles Lakers? He has screwed the San Antonio Spurs because now Kawhi Leonard has almost no trade value.
Oh, definitely.
No team is going to take him other than the Lakers.
Right.
And it's very interesting to see. It seemed like even 5 years ago that the owners, really, I think the movement started with LeBron when he left
Cleveland. Miami.
even before that when he left Cleveland.
Well, when he left for Miami.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, because he formed a super team, and that that's never been done before. Other than obviously Boston had a super team, but that was formed half draft, half free agency with Rajon Rondo.
Yeah,
and then the trade for Kevin Garnett.
Right.
But it's interesting, and I think it's a weird dynamic. It almost feels like the NBA is trying to feel it out, and they don't really know what's happening.
Yeah, they don't know how to address it, and I don't know. The reason I don't give as much credence into the whole story, the whole narrative that if Kawhi gets to the Lakers, then it's basically open all the lanes. LeBron's going to LA, because I don't think Kawhi has as much drawing power as a player as LeBron does. Because
definitely
LeBron, he can think about the Cavaliers going in when he came back. They were awful. They were terrible. But because of LeBron coming back and the drawing power that he had to say, I'm going here and I know you want to play with me, he was able to bring players in just for that sheer aspect.
Exactly.
And it was the craziest thing I've ever seen happen in sports. Right. We've never seen anything like it.
Right. He was basically the GM of that team.
I know. And if he wasn't actively pursuing players, then the GM was doing it on his behalf. Right. It was crazy to see how much power that he had still as a player. It was ridiculous.
And he should. He's the greatest basketball player of all time.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm a diehard Cavs fan. I am a diehard LeBron fan. I have a hard time giving LeBron the greatest of all time before his career is over. I think, first of all, I'll come out and say I hate comparing players that don't play in the same era.
Oh, for sure.
Because I think it's completely unfair. The game was completely different. The rules were different. Just think about in the last 20 years how much the amount of athleticism and talent in the NBA has changed.
It's become a shooter's game.
It's become a shooter's game. It's more skilled.
For sure.
And it's even in the 80s and the 90s you saw teams focus even almost more on people that were like enforcers, like a Dennis Rodman.
Yeah.
Someone that could really change the tempo of a game by roughing people up. But now you see people that come to fruition like Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry who are skinny guys, you know, and
able to thrive in the game.
Yeah, and they're some of the best players in the world.
Exactly.
It's completely changed the game.
I mean, there have been entire articles on the dying enforcers or the die out of enforcers in the NBA. I mean, really, in my mind, there's only two left, and one of them didn't play half the time. You got Matt Barnes, and you have Kendrick Perkins. And Kendrick Perkins, once he signed with the Cavs, did he even play? Did he touch the court?
He did not. God, do I love Kendrick Perkins, man.
Hey,
I really do.
492 fouls to give.
You guys remember Akinfenwa?
I do.
You remember Akinfenwa, Paul?
No idea who that is.
He is it's completely unrelated. I don't know why I'm thinking about him, but I'm always thinking about him. Really, he's a meme. He's a goof. He's a gaff. Real jacked soccer player. I mean, just absolutely just ridiculously jacked. I'm talking Ronnie Coleman.
He's big.
Level
he's
jacked.
round. Okay. He's worth 10 million pounds. Akinfenwa.
Is that chant?
I don't know.
Yeah.
They do that.
I'm not a huge soccer guy.
Yeah. I used to be big into soccer.
I remember you were a Manchester United fan for a while there.
Wayne Rooney, DC
United. Yeah. Wow. Same thought.
He's gonna hate his life in DC United.
Probably.
Worst team in the league.
Also, no one will be able to understand him because his accent is so thick.
What are you talking about, dude? Wayne Rooney, one of the best soccer players all time.
Well, let's relax. I don't know about that. That's a hot take alert.
I don't know if it's that hot of a take.
Well, you know what, guys? We're heading up on 40 minutes here.
We are.
I think it's about time to wrap it up.
All right,
Paul. Thank you for being on the podcast, sharing your wisdom.
It's been great.
We appreciate having you. This has been the Partly Cloudy Podcast, the PCP, where all of us take PCP before the show.
Yes.
That's why the segues were kind of awkward.
Yeah. And if you're listening to this was the first run.
If you keep, it's only going to get worse from here.
Hey, yeah. Think about it, man.
Hey, this is the peak. Yeah. This is the pinnacle of podcasting. So,
That's a hot take alert.
The
Talk
Pinnacle
about it.
Podcast. The Pinnacle Podcast.
The Snowball Podcast, because it just keeps getting.
We are changing the name to the Pinnacle. No, Partly Cloudy Podcast. Here to stay. Next episode will be coming to you eventually.
Who knows?
We haven't set a schedule yet, but we appreciate you listening. If you made it this way through, I'm sorry.
Yeah. We were rambling.
You wasted 40 minutes of your life, guys.
Really. But we appreciate you. We love you. We want to kiss you. Goodbye.